Hey everybody, this is Rahul. Welcome to the gym, and today we're going to talk about one of the most popular standard decks right now in the format, Volcanion, as you can see before me. Volcanion has been gaining a lot of popularity recently because it's just one of the strongest decks um, going into the standard format, and in my opinion is one of the top two decks to beat going into Orlando Regionals, which is coming up in 2 weeks. So if you guys haven't checked out the video for that to get prepared if you're coming down, please do that. This is my rendition of a Volcanion list that I threw together that I think is pretty good. Um, it hasn't been tested too much, but Volcanion is Volcanion. Anything you do, you make a couple changes here and there based on what you think is going to show up. So I'll just hop into the list, I guess. There's two Shamans to start us off because Shaman's an excellent draw card. It's always good to have more cards to draw, on turn one to because Volcanion's whole goal is to just one shot you with little damage. Um, yeah, pretty much. So you just want to draw cards. It's pretty self-explanatory. There's one Flareon EX. I really like this card because it just deals with random annoying things that you could have potentially pop up. And Flareon EX is a really good game closer and helps against Mega Mewtwo to get one of those Mega Mewtwo knockouts that you need. Because otherwise, you need to have a fully powered up Volcanion EX and three steam ups to knock out a Mewtwo EX, which is a lot. Um, that's not easy to get because you start powering up Volcanion EX on the bench, they're gonna Lysander you and one shot you most of the time. So Flareon really helps in a lot of random matchups, and I really like the aspect of just being able to move energy to it, so you don't have like all your energy in one place, and you can kind of like make decisions. It gives you more options in the game, which I like. There's four of the baby Volcanion, which is pretty self-explanatory. Powered heater, 20 damage. Um, you can power up two more guys on the bench, and you can get with steam up. Say you get four steam ups, you're doing 140 for one energy, which is actually nuts. It's the core engine of the deck. Four Volcanion, four Volcanion EX. That's the core engine. There's one Hoopa because getting an Ultra Ball into a Hoopa on turn one pretty much secures you your entire setup because you can go double Volcanion EX Shaman and pretty much set up, draw more cards, get where you need to go. Pretty much sets you up on turn one, and then you have two people to power heater too. So it's pretty self-explanatory. Steam up gets you those energies in the discard. So let's hit the trainers. There's two Acrobikes. I like Acrobike in this deck because it's like a good draw card and helps you get fires in the discard, but I don't like too many just because there's a lot of valuable resources in this deck that you don't really want to discard a lot of the time. So there's that. There's three energy retrieval, which is pretty self-explanatory. You're getting energy in the discard, so you want to get those energy back sometimes to attack. If you can't use power heater to get them back, so it's just a pretty staple thing in this card. You can go up to four, but I like to keep it at three. There's three Max Elixir. Now that's a little controversial of a card in this deck because you want to kind of have the energies in the deck to discard with Steam up, but a lot of the time, um, if your initial Volcanion gets knocked out or like you need to power up an attacker instantly, it's very difficult to do so in situations. So if you can do like Max Elixir, and then like to a Volcanion EX and then steam up three times in the same turn with energy retrievals, which is actually very possible. It seems nuts on paper, but it's very possible with Shamans and other cards. You're pretty much set up in like one turn. So the Max Elixirs are something I've been testing and I really enjoy, and they really help you get that speed in setting up in a lot of matchups where like speed is essential. Um, and a lot of matchups you don't really need it. You can just kind of like chill with just power heatering for a couple turns. But in some matchups like straight fairies and other things that are like out ramping you and out valuing you per exchange, you're gonna have to keep up somehow. And Max Lux really helps out with that. Um, yeah, I play one Professor's Letter because you want to get the energies to steam up. Another way you could do it is cut the max elixirs, go to more energy retrieval and more letters to kind of make sure you have those energies whenever you need them for steam up, etc., which is something I've also been testing out. But I prefer the max elixir version more. But I don't think like the 2 letter or 3 letter version is bad either. with like I would literally like cut the max elixirs, and if you don't like those, and just put two into letter and one in energy retrieval, and bam, you got your deck still. There's three trainers mells. Cards just good. You need to get trainers specifically whenever you need them. So it's better to dig. Um, yeah. There's four Ultra Ball. Pretty self-explanatory. There's fires you want to get in your discard. You want to get that Hoopa. You want to set up Ultra Ball. That's all you need. Turn one. That's pretty much it. There's four VS Seekers to get your supporters back. Obviously, not too much weird about that one there. There's one Fisherman. Fisherman's really, 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 really good late game with this deck. Early game, mid game, whatever. You toss a couple fires away. You pull them back with Fisherman, and then you can steam up. Like, if you have four Volcanion EXs out, you Fisherman once, you're getting four steam ups with one supporter, which is 120 damage, which is nuts. I love it. I love Fisherman in this deck. Yeah, it's pretty stable. Two Lysander. I like having two just because if your opponent ever benches a Shaman or like a Manaphy X or something that just like can be one shot with a couple of steam ups and Baby Volcanion, you always want to take advantage of it. And early game, you don't really need anything but an energy on your Baby Volcanion, and energy's in the discard. So you can pretty much get away with having your first supporter be Lysander a majority of the time, which is what Volcanion X decks do because you've got the two Shamans, you got the Hoopa. You're basically cycling through your deck like aggressively without really burning too many resources. So at that point, you're just kind of like, hey, he's got a threat on the bench. I'd like to Lysander that up and kill it this turn. In most scenarios, with other decks, you can't really do that because on your first turn, you're too busy setting your own field up. But in this deck, you don't have to worry about that as much. So two Lysanders helps you get that early threat, early development on the board. There's two ends. Helps you in the late game against a lot of decks. Helps you get rid of bad hands that you don't want to discard with Juniper, or Sycamore, sorry. And it's just ends pretty strong against speed decks, other decks, whatever. Ends just a strong supporter. I just like two just because I don't like playing one. And because that would leave me with only five draw supporters. And having few draw supporters always makes me uncomfortable in a list. So yeah, that's just my personal preference. You could cut down to one and do like a third stadium or like play Scorched Earths or something. I don't know. Um, yeah, there's four Sycamore. So like you're pretty much gonna draw through a lot of your deck on the first turn. Play Sycamore and you're setting yourself up because you're getting energies in the discard. You're doing X and Y. You're just getting everything rolling. You're getting the ball rolling. Okay, so my stadium of choice in this deck is Skyfield, just because you're building up your bench so big and you're like almost required at all times to have like two to three Volcanion X on the bench. With the Hoopa version, you're getting a Hoopa, Baby Volcanion, like two to three Baby Volcanion X's, Shaman, Flareon. You've basically got a full bench with all the Pokemon in your deck. Now, if they do bump your Skyfield, cool, you're getting rid of a Hoopa, you're getting rid of a Shaman. Those are things you want in the discard anyway. Whatever, thanks, other team. So ideally, Skyfield helps out a lot. A lot of people also like Scorched Earth in this deck because it helps you with the early game draw, gets energy, then discard. But I don't really like think it's needed because with Scorched Earth, it's like you're giving your opponent options if they're also playing Volcanion in the mirror, and you're also putting yourself in a position where it's like I could use this energy to draw two more cards and be a little more greedy, or I could just steam up and take like a safe damage. And a lot of people will be overcome by greed in a lot of situations because they're like, oh, I play like 12, 10 to 12 fire energies. I'll draw into it. I'll be fine. But a lot of the time, it's like, why are you going overboard when you don't need to? You can just chill with this deck. Like, you literally just do a few things and you're set. Like, I don't understand why people go overboard with Volcanion. There's three Fighting Fury Belts. Just makes your baby Volcanions, Volcanion EXs, everything harder to kill, um, which is really nice in my opinion. It just like gives you that extra 40 HP, which is something a lot of decks can't really deal with early game because well, weakness is kind of like this deck is just weak to water. So and it's gonna lose to water no matter like what water deck it plays against. So you're taking the L there regardless. But everything else kind of can't kill you. Like the only big water decks are like Gyarados and Greninja. That's it. So it's like everything else you beat um, handedly or should. And the mirror match, I mean, I'm sure you're weak to water with Volcanion EX. So like if you're really that scared, you can play weakness policies, which is something I want to try. But it's like, why am I playing weakness policies in this kind of a deck? Like I set up one Volcanion EX, they're just gonna Lysander the other, and like I'm left in the same spot. Like I've got a weakness policy on one guy, but well, he's just gonna get two shot. Like what good is it gonna do? With a baby Volcanion, it's just going to steam up 3 times, then hit you once, steam up 3 times again, hit you again. Oh, you're dead. Doesn't matter. Um, so it's just weakness policy doesn't seem too cool, but it's like a cute tech you could have. Maybe like a one of. I don't know. Um, two floatstone. Um, you got a Hoopa. You got a Flareon. They're pretty fat. You want to get them out of the active spot. Everything in this deck's fat. Nothing has nice retreat costs except for Shaman. So you wanna be able to retreat and floatstone. And there's no tool removal, so there's like literally no reason not to play floatstone over other switching cards. Um, Maybe an escape rope, but like I don't really see it. It just doesn't seem necessary. 12 fires. You can go anywhere from 10 to 12. I like 12. Just with max elixirs, you want to have more energies in the deck. If I wasn't playing the max elixir version, I'd probably play like 10. There's, I don't know, more energy is better in this deck. You don't want to ever run dry or ever have that problem of where you're like, oh, I'm not drawing into my energy cards to get my steam ups early enough. So it's just, yeah, I like 12. 12 energies is pretty good. Um, that pretty much wraps up Volcanion. It's a pretty self-explanatory deck, pretty easy to build, pretty easy to pilot, but not easy to pilot well. I'll say that much. Like it's easy to pilot at a record where you can probably go even at a big regionals, just because the deck has the ability to just go nuts on turn one, similar to like old Night March, etc. But playing it at a very proficient level with all these resources and managing to hold them and not discard them and play around certain things in this format requires a lot more skill than necessary. That being said, the Volcanion Mewtwo matchup is really, really weird, and if they get their Garb out, you might have just lost the game. But like getting when they get the Garb out, you have to like get a Volcanion EX out ready to go. You have to chase that Garb down, kill it, and make sure they don't have a second one, or the game's over. Like right there. That's what I've learned in testing. But otherwise, Volcanion's super strong. It beats like it beats doesn't beat Mewtwo. It's like probably like a 40-60. You beat Mega Scizor. You beat you should beat fairies. Like fairies shouldn't be too difficult for you, just because you can use baby Volcanions to make the trade with their Xerneas is pretty nice. You beat Giratina decks. I don't really know why you would struggle against Giratina decks. All you play is basic energy. You should beat Vespiquen variants. Unless they play like heavy Vaporeon lines, which I did, but even then, you can kind of outspeed them and only use your baby Volcanions for a while, and then when you have like a Volcanion EX ready to go, you can just end them to low numbers, and hitting 220 is really difficult a lot of the time. So it's just like without Battle Compressor. Um, you beat most of the big meta decks. Rayquaza kind of runs through you, Mega Rayquaza, but Mega Rayquaza isn't a deck that I'm expecting to be very popular, purely because it, Mewtwo beats it, Garbodor beats it, just heavy decks playing heavy Parallel City beat it. It has a lot of innate weaknesses right now that I think a lot of decks are going to exploit. Greninja you kind of take the L to, which Greninja and Gyarados both you take the L to. Greninja you can kind of outspeed. Maybe you can outspeed them with like you'll take a knockout in your turn one probably, and then they kind of won't for like 2 or 3 turns. But if they like ever stumble, I guess, or like they prize a lot of Frogadiers or something, you have a shot at winning that game. In a best of three, is it likely? Probably not, but you got a shot. Other than that, there's like not much else to say about Volcanion. If you guys like the video, please make sure to leave a like, make sure to follow or subscribe, make sure to leave a comment. Let us know if you're going to regionals. That'd be pretty cool. Other than that, this is Volcanion EX, and that's pretty much the deck. There's like nothing too fancy about it. Um, but yeah, this is like one of my top 3 or 4 choices going into Orlando, as we're 2 weeks out, and we're getting pretty close, and you got to think about it. So, good luck to everybody, and thank you guys for watching. This is the Chaos Gym.